Art has been correlated to politics across history and across the globe since its birth. In the exhibit Art's Campaign, a cross-culture study of art and politics, we begin with the beginning of politics themselves and show how art was used to express the power and authority of rulers of the world's first dynasties. But as the history and politics progress, so do the artists' responses. Art radically shifts. No longer is it used to only express power, but to also rebel against it. Art becomes a form of political protest and expression, sometimes more powerful than any words. Ending with contemporary pieces that have been created in response to contemporary political issues, we force you to question the ways of your own modern governments, after reflecting on the ones of the past. The next piece displayed in the exhibit is Akhenaton, Nefertiti, and Three Daughters. And this work comes from the Amarna period, which was a major turning point in Egyptian style and portrayal of elites. Comparing this work to earlier Old Kingdom works like Menkaure and his Queen, one can see a clear difference in sharp linear edges to the soft sloping curves of Akhenaton, Nefertiti, and Three Daughters. Akhenaton is portrayed interacting with his daughters and wife, an unusual domestic scene for royals, as the rays of the sun god, Aton, bless the family. This work allows a more intimate and honest view into what perhaps the reality of royal life was during this time period.
Rubens' illustration of the courtship between Marie de' Medici and Henry IV clearly has its roots in a French political agenda. The series was made after Marie returned back to France from her exile in order to re-establish herself as a revered and critical part of France. Rubens uses imagery of respected antiquity of married gods Juno and Jupiter, looking approvingly down on the soon-to-be wed couple. Henry IV is supported on his right by the embodiment of French liberty, clearly showing the support of France to accept Marie. Rubens uses several symbols and positive connotations of Marie within the series to help support her reintegration into the French political prominence. Jacques-Louis David's The Oath of the Horatii is a monumental turning point in the perspective and agenda of political art. While the works we have examined earlier seem to have been propagated by established governments, David makes connections to Greek antiquity to show a protest against a controlling French monarchy. David embodies the neoclassical style with allegories to historical democracies in something that could be wanted in the future in a time of rising tension between the French government and its people.
After the Oath of Horatii, we have And There's Nothing to Be Done from the Disastrous Warplate by Spanish artist Francisco de Goya, which is one of the first artworks to portray war and government actions in a negative way, with soldiers not being glorified. Rather, Goya's artwork displays the harsh realities of war, and the images were used as a form of protest against the French occupation of Spain by Napoleon. Napoleon proclaimed his brother as ruler of Spain, which caused a bloody uprising and countless deaths, and ultimately led to the Peninsular War. By using dry point and etching, Goya is able to successfully capture how the decisions of dictators affect the lives of civilians and capture the true horrors of war. Liberty Leading the People, unlike Goya's piece, glorifies war as it depicts a battle from the 3 glorious days of the Parisian uprisings, which occurred in July of 1830. The painting was painted in September, only months after the event occurred, as Delacroix was present for the battle and thought it was his civic duty to paint the modern subject and what he had seen. The artwork is a historical and an allegorical mix as it portrays an actual battle, yet uses a partially nude, larger-than-life female figure adorned in classical drapery to represent the French. And the woman, like everyone else, is caught in the heat of the moment and recent victory. The victory is displayed by Delacroix's romantic style and uses pyramidal composition as well as a strong sense of diagonals. Delacroix's oil painting shows the death of France's ancient monarchy and the birth of a new sense of nationalism and a new rule.
The Burghers of Calais by Rodin is another amazing artwork that shows the true magnitude and power of a piece of art. The work was patroned by the city of Calais to memorialize their involvement in the French-British Hundred Years' War. While the patrons believed they would receive a piece that was made the burghers more grandiose in monuments, Rodin portrays them emotionally with individualized hands and emotional tones to make them more relatable, especially on their street-level pedestal. Rodin is not only to elevate Calais' involvement in the great historical battle, but heighten their political honor as a city as well. Step Nova highlights and praises the success of the USSR and creates a practically propagandistic photomontage, one-sidedly stressing the power and growth of its new state. The young communist state, the USSR, was celebrated by many artists and intellectuals alike who saw an opportunity to end corruption and extreme poverty that defined Russia in its Tsar. Stepnova encourages the motion forward by the USSR and propagandizes it to the rest of society by including masses of Russians in what seems like support of 5-year plans. Stepnova also aggressively supports the political motive for the communist state by including its beloved founder Lenin looking left towards the future of the USSR. The Unknown Artist of Chairman Mao en route to Anyuan shows a typical propagandistic style, as well as influence from the West. Even this work's material is influenced by propaganda, noted as color lithography, which is often used because of its ability to be mass-produced at an inexpensive rate. The artist of this piece unabashedly illustrates Chairman Mao as the central focus with atmospheric perspective and linear perspective that is typically common of Western art. Mao is portrayed front and center in large scale with the raging sea and nature behind him, clearly defining him as someone who can tame and lead the chaos of both nature and new communist China. In this piece, we can see how the artist clearly makes Chairman Mao someone who is supposed to be connotatively liked by the public and re-strengthen and empower the political future of communist China.
The art exhibit next displays a piece radically different from Chairman Mao and Ru Tianwan, Lipstick Ascending on Caterpillar Tracks, which does not praise government choices but protest against them. The piece was created by Klaus Oldenburg in 1969 amidst the Vietnam War. The 24-foot-high sculpture overlooked a World War memorial and claimed a visible space for the anti-war movement, and was used as the stage for many anti-war protests. The work is deeply critical and combines the feminine product of lipstick with the masculinity of militaristic machinery to poke fun at the masculinified army of the USA. Moreover, the lipstick is almost bullet-like, giving the makeup product a masculine and violent sense, and conveying the idea that the U.S. fixation with beauty ideals and consumer culture distracted the population from the Vietnam War and the horrors that were occurring.
In Sunam's Summer Trees, we see an intelligent spin on tradition in order to criticize and rebel against the current real world and its politics in Korea. Sunam uses traditional ink-wash painting style that can be remembered in ancient Chinese and Taoist paintings from long ago. Sunam takes comfort and identity in this traditional technique to respond to the 20th century's trauma in Korea, the end of Korea's ancient monarchy, brutal colonization by the Japanese, mass destruction during the Korean War, and the partitioning of the nation from constant threat against the North. Sunam is able to push back against the censorship of the New Age by finding refuge in Korean identity and tradition to uniquely rebel against real-world political threats. Zhu Bing's innovative installment of hundreds of pages of literature shows an immersive way into which a viewer can understand the message of the artist, despite language barrier. Bing's installation reflects his experience with the Chinese Cultural Revolution that strived to annihilate all educated peoples and new philosophies. Bing's pages and pages of calligraphy is, however, meaningless, both metaphorically and literally, in order to convey his protest against governmental censorship and created thousands of meaningless characters upon them. Bing's meaningless words on surrounding landscape of paper is able to clearly convey that knowledge must be learned solely by oneself, not by the influence of others, and especially not by the influence of one's political government. Ai Weiwei's series Dropping a Han Dynasty Urn uses a symbol object as a major allegory towards his opinion on the political honor of China and its preservation of history. His act of dropping an ancient urn symbolically vanquishes 2,000 years of tradition, culture, and history, referring to the destruction, roleplay, and redefining art as well as culture. In the series, Ai Weiwei is portrayed without emotion as he shatters the glass, as if it were no different than an ordinary household vase. Photographing the artist's performance while destroying the object is the ultimate goal, and it becomes a conceptual piece of art. Many can conclude that Ai Weiwei's symbolic actions mirror his thoughts that in order to overcome major issues, China must disembowel problems rooted in its historical past in order to come out stronger in its burgeoning political future.